We've always been close, intimate even. That never really changed, not even after Harry. Those words didn't come from a glossy headline. They didn't come from a nameless source typing in the dark. They came from Markus Anderson himself. The story that followed was never gentle. It didn't whisper. It hit like a fault line snapping open under a kingdom built on protocol and illusion. It was a story buried under silk and secrecy, under polished smiles and polished titles, wrapped in curated photos and controlled narratives. It begins exactly where fairy tales are supposed to end, inside a world of calculated access, forbidden loyalties, and one man who quietly held the keys to all of it. "We've always been close" was never meant for public ears. It was a line that slipped out in the safety of a private conversation, spoken like a self-evident truth that needed no explanation. It fell out of his mouth casually, almost lazily, as if the weight of it belonged only to the people in the room. But once those words escaped, they didn't drift. They detonated, because Markus wasn't a stranger hovering at the edges of Meghan Markle's life. He wasn't a forgotten ex or a distant name from an old contact list. He was the man who had been whispered about for years as Meghan's other half, the shadow in every timeline, the constant in every chapter. So, think about it. If Markus was still that close, still that intimate, even after Harry, then what was the marriage really built on? Was it a fresh beginning, or an extension of a story that started long before a prince ever entered the frame? To understand why a single sentence carried the power to crack foundations, you first have to understand who Markus Anderson really was before anyone attached his name to royalty. Because before he became a quiet threat in palace corridors, before his presence made courtiers tense and advisors whisper, Markus Anderson was just Markus from Ontario. No silver spoon, no inherited title, no generational wealth cushioning his fall. What he had instead was people. Markus learned to read them the way others read books. He could step into a room and know, in seconds, who held real influence, who was desperate to be seen, and who needed to be made to feel important. He didn't chase power by demanding it. He offered something more seductive: access. Access to rooms, to circles, to lives that were normally closed. That was his currency. His rise began with Soho House, the members' only world that pretended to be about comfort and exclusivity, but really ran on privacy, leverage, and unspoken terms. To outsiders, it was just a glamorous club filled with celebrities, producers, billionaires, and the beautiful unknowns who orbited them. To insiders, it was a gatekeeping machine. And Markus wasn't just on the payroll, he was at the door. He decided whose names made the list and whose didn't, who got waved in and who stayed outside with their ambitions pressed against the glass, who was allowed to be visible and who would never be seen. Powerful people trusted him because he made them feel understood. Aspiring people depended on him because he could change everything with a single, well-timed introduction. Quietly, Markus became the man behind the curtain, the one no one voted for, but everyone needed. That is the world where he met Meghan Markle. Back then, she wasn't a duchess. She wasn't a global headline. She was an ambitious actress filming Suits in Toronto, aware that talent didn't guarantee anything, and that the right rooms mattered as much as the right roles. She was hungry, not in a clumsy way, but in an intentional one, the kind of hunger that understands image, timing, and opportunity. Markus recognized that immediately. Where others saw a pretty, promising actress, he saw alignment. He understood ambition because he lived it. He understood timing because it had built his career. And most of all, he understood exactly how far someone like Meghan could go with the right guidance and the right proximity. Their connection didn't start as romance. It was subtler than that. It was a shared instinct for elevation. Markus didn't just open doors for her, he showed her which doors mattered and which were distractions. Meghan didn't just listen, she absorbed. Before anyone attached the word royal to her name, there was a small, guarded universe that existed just for Meghan and Markus. They traveled together: Madrid, Istanbul, London, always well-dressed, always composed, always just a step away from full public scrutiny. Friends who watched them up close noticed something different about their dynamic. They didn't need to fill every silence with chatter. They traded glances that carried full sentences. They finished each other's thoughts, adjusted their movements in sync, like two people fluent in a private language no one else could quite decode. When Meghan doubted herself, Markus reminded her of her value. When she needed doors opened, he knew the names, the numbers, the angles. When she wanted to rise, he didn't simply cheer for her, he plotted the route. Over time, their bond deepened into something that didn't fit neatly under friend or mentor. He became her anchor, the fixed point in the chaos. Markus curated her life the way a strategist curates a brand. Designers, producers, influential investors, and rarefied social circles. He didn't just introduce her to them, he placed her among them. And Meghan trusted him in a way that is dangerous in the worlds they moved through. Completely. He had never fumbled an opportunity. He had never mishandled a secret. As her profile expanded, Markus didn't drift. He stayed close, sometimes in the frame, often just outside it, always smiling quietly in the background, always watching, always guarding what he had helped shape. This wasn't a phase. It wasn't a convenient chapter. It was a foundation, carefully poured and set long before a prince ever appeared. By the time Meghan's name started to circle in elite social spheres, her life no longer moved in random, hopeful bursts. It moved with intention. Markus didn't just arrange introductions, he arranged positioning. Every invitation, every weekend away, every spontaneous dinner had a purpose. Madrid wasn't simply a fun escape. London wasn't simply work. Istanbul wasn't merely adventure. Each place came with curated company, quiet conversations, and silent tests of how she carried herself in higher circles. To Meghan, it all felt organic, a natural progression. To those who understood the mechanics, nothing about it was accidental. Behind the scenes, Markus was managing momentum like a campaign. He knew how proximity creates perception, and how perception creates opportunity. He knew which rooms were worth the performance, and which weren't worth the effort. He knew when to push her forward, when to hold her back, and when silence would say more than another social appearance. She trusted him because he had proven himself before the cameras arrived, before the headlines, before the fair weather supporters. As her visibility grew, his influence didn't shrink. It slipped deeper into the core of her world. Her ascent never looked forced. It looked guided, almost curated by an invisible hand. That invisible hand would eventually guide her straight into the path of someone who would rewire everything. Prince Harry. In 2016, Meghan stayed at Soho Farmhouse, a secluded, carefully manicured retreat in the English countryside. To the public, it was a charming coincidence, a well-timed pause between projects. But for Markus, it was alignment. He handled the booking, he crafted the guest list, he controlled the setting in the way only a man who knew the system from the inside could. To onlookers, it was just a relaxed weekend. To those who understand how stories are engineered, it was a stage. That weekend, Meghan was introduced to Prince Harry. The moment itself wasn't cinematic. Dinner, drinks, conversation. No orchestrated drama, no obvious script. But something clicked immediately. Harry was drawn to her warmth and her willingness to look at him like a man, not a symbol. Meghan was drawn to his restlessness, his need to escape the cage he'd been born into. When the night ended and the prince returned to his world, Meghan did what she had always done at the edge of something new. She called Markus. She laughed in that nervous way that signals excitement and risk. She described Harry as different, curious, complicated, quietly desperate for something real. Markus didn't react with shock. He responded like a strategist who had seen a long-shot opportunity walk into the frame. He gave her one piece of advice, small and sharp enough to cut straight through the noise. Make sure he sees the version of you the world doesn't. That sentence became a pivot point. From that moment, Meghan wasn't just falling in love. She was stepping into a role that was about more than romance. And Markus wasn't backing away from the story. He was watching from a new vantage point. As Meghan and Harry grew closer, Markus didn't disappear into the past like an old chapter. He remained, present, pleasant, woven into the life she was building. At first, it felt harmless. Markus and Harry appeared to get along. They shared dinners, swapped stories, and laughed like men who believed they were on the same side of the narrative. To Harry, Markus was just a longtime friend, a man from Meghan's pre-royal years who had helped her navigate Hollywood and high society. But over time, a subtle difference began to gnaw at him. Harry noticed how Meghan softened around Markus.